From the Vertical Pursuit Studios, this is episode 58. 58. We need, we're going to keep rolling. We need a lot more than 58, I'll tell you that. And every time we do one that I think is pretty good or that I hear is pretty good, makes me realize that it's one of the most valuable things I'm doing in my life is just spending time talking, not only to those listeners, but I'm sitting here talking to Pastor Mike Tatlock, who is in the house. What's wrong with your microphone?
Microphone is all jacked up right now.
What's wrong with the stand? Here, work on that.
I'll work on that.
You can talk while you do it.
Say some important stuff.
Yeah, I'll try. Anyway, I just mean that the more that we dive into different subjects that I think are meaningful to people and to men, which is, we've talked about this before, but it's one of the main reasons we started it. And then to hear back from people who are listening and it's moving or touching in some kind of a way. And again, the goal in many cases is something as simple as just to get conversations started, to get some of the stuff that we talk about being talked about, and to help you realize that you're not alone and that you can't do this alone, and find a group, find a cohort, find a friend to have a devotional with, a Bible study, whatever. To walk along with you in life. These things are so valuable and so important. So, did you get it fixed over there?
It's fixed now.
Okay. I just saw you holding your microphone. I'm like, we don't have to hold them. We have these cool little stands, but yours was flopping all over.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. We're good now, though. Back in the game.
You know what a great dish is, and I haven't tried this. I was thinking about this a minute ago. I don't know why, but my mind works this way. This is probably because we were from Idaho. My dad was a basketball coach, and on game night, this has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about in this episode, by the way. I don't know why this popped into my head. It's probably because I'm hungry. But he used to take potatoes, and he would slice the potatoes into like coins that look like poker chips.
Oh, yeah.
And then he would put them in a cast iron pan with some oil and butter, fry them up, and then when you take them out, now this is key, you'd take a can of pork and beans and you dump it over the fried potatoes and then eat it with like a burger. Oh, phenomenal.
Oh, let's go.
It was so good.
Man. Now
and
we're both sitting here now. I'm thinking.
I know. And I was talking to my buddy Nick the other day, and he had made some incredible like pit beans, baked beans on the Traeger or on whatever. And I was eating them cold like the next day, which I almost like them better cold than I do hot. And his beans have bacon in them and all this rich sauce. And so it took me back to thinking about the potatoes and beans. And it's probably because we didn't have a whole lot of money and because we, Idaho, obviously potatoes. And so it kind of goes with it. But next time you want to do something special, slice up. We should do some barbecue episodes.
We have to do a barbecue episode.
I made pulled pork for my son's grad party the other day, and I did a 12 and a half hour cook on pulled pork. I've never had. I got to show you a video in a minute. Remind me when we're done. We're not on video anymore. Otherwise, I'd share this with everybody on how I've done pulled pork a bunch of times, and I've never done it like this. I put it on at night about 10 o'clock. I put it at 220. Let it go all night. 7 in the morning, I got up, went out, and my internal temp was like 157. And I thought, well, I don't need much longer. So I let it go a little longer. And then when it got to 162, 165, sometimes you can go as high as 170. Then I wrap it, I put apple cider vinegar in it with butter and brown sugar. And then I cover it in a pan. And then I turn I think I raised the temp a little bit, 270, 275. And I let it go another 4 or 5 hours. Then I took it off and rested it for 3 hours. Then by the time I got it to the cutting board, I basically squeezed it with my hands and it was done. It was done. It was pulled and moist and perfect. Anyway, I was talking about potatoes. How did it get on my pulled pork?
Did you rub on there too? What'd you use?
Yeah, I used rub on there.
What's your favorite rubs that you like?
I do a lot of meat church stuff.
Yeah,
Matt Pittman is the man down in Texas. Shout out to Matt down in Waxahachie. Meat Church is so good, and he's a partner of Traeger, who I do some work with. And Chad Ward has Whiskey Bent. He does some really good spices. There's a place called Five Monkeys out of California. They do great rubs. They do great barbecue sauces. I know I'm kind of into this stuff, but my go-to, there's one called a honey hog, and there's a
honey hog.
There's a hot honey hog.
That is fire.
They call it, so when you do the like the pork shoulder and you get it, they call it a finishing dust.
Oh yeah.
So you hit that with a little hot honey hog at the end, and then I know it's fantastic. I'm going to try some of that on these potatoes I'm talking about. My dad's old dish.
Oh.
With and they have to be the Van de Kamp pork and beans. Don't get all fancy, man. You that's what you pour on the fried potatoes.
That's right.
Pork and beans. Put a burger next to it. Put it on the fried potatoes, and that's your home free.
Okay, speaking of burgers too, now.
Yeah.
Have you done any of the smash burger stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. And you have a Blackstone, right?
I have a Blackstone.
You smash burger?
Oh heck yeah.
Smash elk?
Oh, absolutely. Elk burger. Smash.
All I do is eat elk burgers.
Gosh. Absolutely. I will say, because, and shout out to Greg over at Grill Center, and we love those guys. And, and the Traeger that I have is amazing.
Yeah.
And so we'll do everything you do, like pulled pork, ribs, chicken, all that. That's awesome on the Traeger. Burgers too.
Yep.
And so you got to just change it up and go smash burger.
Yep.
And nothing does a good smash burger like a Blackstone.
I know.
A Blackstone with a flat top grill is just...
And like, Traeger has a new flat rock
they
griddle
do. Now,
too.
I saw that at Cabela's the other day.
Yeah.
They had one there.
Well, Benny Kendrick, who, if you go on Instagram to Kendrick Barbecue, he's got like millions of followers. I got around Benny a little bit because he was up here doing an event at the Grill Center. So shout out to Benny down in Utah. He does a mean smash burger. He has great recipes. Go on Kendrick Barbecue. Benny's a stud and great guy. All these guys in the barbecue world. And years ago when I was still with the Blazers, Chad Ward started the first Traeger shop classes, and he did them up here. And so it was at Greg's place. And so I would go out, and so then Chad got huge, Whiskey Bent. He started cooking for Kid Rock, and he cooked Super Bowl. He cooked Dan Patrick's show.
Oh, wow.
He's always cooking for Dan Patrick's shows on Meat Friday. So Chad now works for Traeger. So he's like the Traeger grill ambassador, marketing manager or something. So I still talk to Chad. So when Benny was up, Kendrick, so Benny is huge in the barbecue world. And if guys out there who are listening to this who are barbecue guys, you know Benny Kendrick. So when Benny was up here, we were texting back and forth, and we were FaceTiming with Chad, who was I think he was cooking... Oh, no, Benny was supposed to be cooking for the UFC guys in Vegas.
Oh, no way.
And Chad was, I don't know, Alabama, somewhere cooking for somebody. These guys, what a life, these guys. It's so cool to be in this barbecue world's a whole different thing, but these guys are fantastic guys. All right, so that's enough of that, I guess. Although that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But we are definitely going to do a podcast at some point. I'll have Nick come on, too. Who used to Nick has done some stuff and helped us out with VP. Nick's a great pit master. He does some really cool stuff. He does stuff that not just Traeger stuff, but he does like these seafood boils.
Oh yeah,
with with clams
with Cajun
and
stuff going on.
For his birthday a couple of years ago, his wife had shipped in crawdads like from Louisiana, but for some reason you couldn't, because they're live.
Yeah.
And you couldn't ship them in live to Washington, so she had to go into Oregon and had to go to. You have to get like a permit or something to fly in live
crawfish contraband.
Crawfish, yeah. So, but she went and picked them up, and you open this cardboard box, which is a thick box, and these dudes are crawling all over the place, and they're from Louisiana. So Nick had a big rolling boil going in this big thing he has in the backyard, and threw them in there. Anyway. Some potatoes, sausage, crawdads, crab legs. I don't know why I got it from food. I didn't even plan this. All right, let me give you a quote before I get into what I want to get to weigh in with you on in this episode. And some of these episodes, honestly, and I've joked about this before, I end up feel like I'm sitting on the couch because these are things that are important to me, but I know the more I talk about them with friends, they go, I'm the same way. So I realize if I'm struggling with them, then I think other guys are too. So this is the quote. This is from Stephen Furtick, who's in North Carolina, right? He says, if I'm going to live at peace, I've got to surrender my expectation of perfection. Peace isn't found in a place or in a set of circumstances that are problem-free. So now I know that quote, you can go, okay, where is he going? Is he going to being a perfectionist? Yeah, kind of. But where I'm going to in this is expectations.
Yeah.
Misguided expectations and the potential destruction of expectations. Now, this can be, and we can kind of work through these. These can be, for me, it's more personal. It's my expectations of myself. But they can be your expectations of your spouse. They can be expectations of friends, expectations in business, of your business. And it's this whole idea of setting yourself up for disappointment if your expectations are not realistic. So how do you figure that out? And how do you avoid letting expectations destroy things in your life? And there's a couple of ways that can happen. Well, there's a lot of ways that can happen, but the ways I was thinking about, either something happens that is unanticipated or something that we had counted on fails to materialize. Now, funny thing is, and most everything we talk about, we go back and we give an example from the Bible. Now, I kind of thought about this and was thinking about different stories. There were several, but I didn't, and you probably off the top of your head would know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of different ones. I mean, Job is a great one, and the expectations and then the unfulfillment and then why this and why didn't this happen. Nothing really hit home with what I wanted to talk about, so I'm probably not going to. I want you to bring some of those up. There's some scripture stuff about expectations for sure. But in terms of me, it's like the times I think it can be an event we're throwing at the house, a vacation where I get my expectations. And if you're married and you have kids and you get a date night, okay? And if you have little kids, you know how valuable that time is. Your wife is looking great and polished up, and the kids you got a babysitter, and you go out, and you got expectations, man. You do for how that night's going to roll. And then something happens, or the night doesn't work out right, or something sidetracks the night, and then all of a sudden it's disappointment. And then all of a sudden your expectations get curbed by experience and by the last thing that happened. So that was an example, but it was an example on kind of my weakness about it, especially as it relates to even like an expectation and my envy of people who can roll with anything. And I'm not. To some degree I can, but not really. I think expectations are what we think will happen, while reality is what actually transpires, okay? And in between those two is where we got to figure it out. We hope those two will match up.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Oftentimes they don't. So the disparity between expectations versus reality is what so often, and I'm speaking personally or guilty as charged, is what often leads to discontentment, unhappiness, self-esteem issues. So I guess the question we have to ask ourselves are our expectations realistic and healthy? And if they're not, what do we do about it? Because expectations are simply assumptions. I think our brain tricks us into seeing assumptions as realistic outcomes, okay? I know this is a lot of stuff. I'm just kind of rattling through this. And as we hold ourselves to see the outcome work out the way we want it, I do that. I'm terrible about that. And if it doesn't, depending on how your specific brain works, everything can come apart.
Yeah.
And I've had that happen. Now, there are examples in something that we know very well in sports. What's one of the days that I always looked forward to before a season started? The preseason predictions, preseason expectations. And I, for years, covered NBA training camps, and you go to training camp, and there are a lot of guys who you maintain your job based on hope and expectations. And if you can, there was a a GM who I love dearly, John Nash. He was a GM of the 76ers, and he was a GM of the Blazers. John was really good at lowering expectations to start a season. Therefore, it would reduce the pressure on his job. So it is funny how that I thought of him today when I was talking about expectations. So it's funny how then the way you cope with perhaps unmet expectations or expectations that get sidetracked, it brings up the need to grieve our shattered dreams or our shattered expectations. It's dramatic, I know, but it's a healthy way to view this. Now, in terms of it in a relationship, and you know this well, expectations can, and this isn't just spouse, this is friends too. Expectations can damage, they can even ruin relationships. And do we place fair expectations on our spouse? Does our spouse place fair expectations on us? We oftentimes, and some more than others, we expect others, and we can get into the whole identity part of this. We expect others to complete us or fulfill us constantly and act and respond in ways that we want or ways that would be beneficial to us. Am I giving too much here?
No, you're just hitting the nail on the head. That's
okay.
all.
And like I said before, I was really bad at an expectation for a vacation, an expectation for a weekend, and you set yourself up for disappointment if your expectations aren't realistic.
Well, and when you say the word disappointment, the word appointment is in the word disappointment.
Correct.
So what we do with an expectation is we have created a reality. Our imagination has created an appointment.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
And that appointment is whatever my imagination / expectation has created. And that goes on other people, and that goes on myself. And then when the appointment is canceled or not met, therefore the disappointment comes in. That's by definition what it means. So then what do you do with that? So like, when you have expectations, you can go, I just don't want to live with disappointment anymore. Therefore, I'm just never going to set any expectations.
Correct. We all say we're going to do that, but it's impossible.
And you're like, no, you don't. Because I would say the only way you can not have any expectations is to not be alive. So you can lower them, absolutely, reset the bar.
We all say that, but we don't do it.
We don't do that. And then I think the hardest part is, what about ourselves, the expectations we put on ourselves?
That's the damaging part. That's where I get into trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you do? Let's just get honest.
I beat myself up.
Well, is that what it looks like for you?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
When you set an expectation for yourself and you don't meet whatever that is, what do you do?
Terrible.
Do you isolate? You get angry? Do you just beat yourself up?
Bad self-talk. Really bad self-talk.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it to this day. Admittedly. I mean, it's really unhealthy. And here's the thing is like when my wife's heard, I'm pretty good about hiding it, which is, kind of not what we're supposed to be teaching on this program, on this podcast, but I'm good at hiding it, but my wife will see it once in a while. She doesn't like it. When you're hard on yourself and when it hit me is when, and this was years ago, one of my kids, probably my daughter, although it might have been my son, when they were really little, they said that. They said, you're being really hard on yourself. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm teaching this to them now. I'm modeling this. But that is, so I would always say, no, honey, to my wife, I said, I'm motivating myself. So is that true? I don't know. And probably because I came from sports, I've talked about having a dad as a coach. Some coaches motivate that way. He didn't. I'm just saying some coaches do motivate by that. And every player is different, as coaches will tell you. I tried to I tried to hide behind that as a reason why, or even an excuse why, or trying to point out the positive aspects of why I'm hard on myself. It's not true. And it wasn't motivational, and it's not good for you. And yeah, I really struggle with that even now. And so then for somebody like me who, you know, was kind of gliding along at I don't want to overstate this, but in my own mind, at the top of my profession, at least for what I had expectations for myself, beyond what I ever had. And then it all comes crashing down when we're all fired after the playoffs in 2016 for no real reason, and very publicly, obviously. And everybody's asking. So when your and I didn't expect to talk about this part, but it does play a factor. Now, I was probably bad about this before, much worse after, because I wouldn't cut myself any slack, even though it was a God thing. I know it was, because of reasons we've talked about before and ways of discernment to how I was tipped off about it and how I knew about it the night before. I was with you the night before. And this is 8 years, whatever it was. But the part of then feeling like, even though I know nothing I did, it was just one of those things where the owner decided to, you know, there's a lot of reasons, who knows. But at weak moments, I blame myself.
Yeah.
In that I didn't live up to my own expectation of myself. So I don't know the answer to that. And a lot of this stuff I started off reeling off like I've got some great answer to all this. I really don't. I want to talk about it because I know there are remedies for it. I don't know about a fix. At least for the destructive part of expectations. Now, it's not all expectations are evil. They're not all bad. I think one of the ways to get back to something we talked about, well, we talked about it a lot, but we've talked about it in our last episode, was talking about this challenge of taking every thought captive. And while by doing it, and perhaps before, and this goes back to maybe something that's more about a date night or a vacation or a job or a business report or whatever, ask yourself enough beforehand to where you can take it captive. What are my expectations for this? Are they fair? Are they realistic? Are they selfish? And then pray about it. That's my advice to others. I'm not sure I've always heeded that, but for others like me, and I know there are people like me for sure, who are hard on themselves and who don't meet their own expectations. And then, as my wife has said before to me, your expectations could never be met. The expectations you put on yourself. You're not going to meet those. So therefore, you're going to perpetually feel guilt and shame for not living up to your own expectations.
That's the part right there. That's where I thought we were going to go to, because I've noticed in myself, when it comes to my own unmet expectations, I'll go into a place of deflation or deflection. So I will self-deflate. I will just, and I'll just wallow in that. And I'll just continue to shame and, you know, or deflection, which wasn't my fault that expectation
and you
happened.
get pissed off. Yeah.
And it's like their fault that I didn't meet that goal, their fault that I didn't.
Lash out.
Yeah. And so it either turns into hatred towards myself or hatred towards others. That's where I end up going with unmet expectations. Man. One of those two places, which is not good. So, no. but those self-hate, hate of others, is where I can then start stewing and or just unraveling. And then it takes me like, okay, what do I do now to get to where I'm at? How do I get out of this space? And then how do I not get here again?
Exactly.
So do I reset and realign the expectations? Do I lower bars? Don't set any bars. Do I go, well, no, keep the same bar, but maybe I need to change the way in which I'm living that can still meet up to those expectations. I mean, for instance, like if your kid comes to you, and we all struggle with this, or if you have somebody that is in your life and they do something and you lash out in anger, you get angry or whatever. Is it wrong to have the expectation to not lash out? No, that's a great expectation to have. That's good. Like, so then if I don't meet the expectation, do I lower that and settle for a lesser, better version of myself?
See, then that's the part, if you've been in athletics, which you have been as well, like I have, you're not going to lower your expectations.
No. And that's why
you're not going to lower your standards.
No. So I think this is where we come in as the Christian faith differently, because our whole world is set up. I mean, I can go to Barnes & Noble right now, and they have a whole section on self-help, self-motivation, self-reflections. It's all about how do I become the better version of me. The problem is, and this is where I think many of you are probably listening out there going, that's all BS. It's snake oil. They're peddling this idea that you can be this better you. And I think it's all just a facade. You watch all these movements, you got people out there selling their 5 principles to a better you and all this kind of stuff. And I just think it's a shame.
You're tearing down the economy now.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people making good money off of somebody else's.
Absolutely.
Or the Bible gives this idea, which is it's not about a better version of me. It's the better version of Jesus. Which you go, wait, did you just set a different bar? Like, can we go back to setting the bar of me? Did you just set the bar that now Jesus, God? Well, like now that just reinforces. But the Bible set up that we should live with a different way of meeting, because I think it's okay to have personal reflection to the point of saying, how can I not just be a better person? How can I be better like Jesus? But not from the standpoint of me trying to be like him, because I'm going to be failed. I'm going to be a failure out of the gate. I tell people, like, becoming like Jesus would be the equivalent of trying to be like Superman. And you're like, really? I like, come on. Like,
but you're talking about discipline. And
yes.
And I agree with that.
Absolutely. And I think for me, I've had to reset the expectation of what's the source of my own growth and development. And so is it wrong to have like discipline and growth and all that kind of, I want to be a better husband, be a better dad and all that kind of stuff. But see, what I do is I will set a vision of that. I'll be like, oh, this is what it means to be like a stellar husband, dad, father, leader. I want to be an incredible leader, people respect and making a difference in the world.
And you start to compare.
And you can always compare up and down. I can find someone worse than me, and go, man, at least I'm not like that schmuck. Like I'm better than that person. Or you can find someone better than you and just feel like, oh, I'm just totally, I'm a horrible person. But I think like for me, Bible says like in Corinthians, we are transformed like in a mirror from glory to glory to become more like Jesus. And I think like when I look in a mirror, I don't want to see a better version of me that I'm trying to aim for. I just think that expectation, what I is like, okay, how to be like more Jesus? But then you hear people say that and then you go like I said earlier, that's like trying to be Superman. And then out of the gate, I fail. Then I'm like, well, that bar is so freaking high. I'm never going to measure up to that. So is that my expectation, is to be God now? So I think to me, it's the humble thing of, God, I need your power through your Spirit to help me overcome self-sabotaging tendencies, overcome my own areas of immaturity. So I can't meet that expectation of a mature Mike or a more Christ-like Mike or a Christ-like dad, father, husband, leader, friend. So I guess for me, I had to learn up that religion. I grew up with this idea of religion, and then I just kept failing at it. And I'm like, well, that's another disappointment. And then it comes with a lot of shame and guilt. Now you got the spiritual guilt.
Yeah.
I'm disappointing Mike, I'm disappointing God. And I'm just a big disappointment to everybody. But that religious guilt, when I talk with men most of the time, it's disappointment with themselves And if they have a faith, they constantly bear this, I'm just a disappointment to God. Because they've created, again, those expectations of like what it means to be a good Christian, a good follower of Jesus. And then we, do something. We got chronic masturbation, porn, alcoholism, just real stuff. That's stuff I talk about with all the time. That
Sure.
Guys go, dude, I can't live with myself anymore. I feel like I'm the worst poser in the world. God must be so disappointed with me. So I think that's where this whole setting these expectations, the expectations we put on ourselves, and did God even expect us to be perfect like him apart from his power to accomplish that in our life? It's not like he said, here, you go be like me, and left us powerless to accomplish that. But if we try to, that's just going to lead down a more of a path of shame. And so to me, it's about realigning the right expectations, maybe, but also how to even get there has to be reset. To what power am I relying on to get there?
And I always think sometimes if I don't, and this is another thing I hide behind, like I did the motivation part of it, but I always feel like to not be trying to meet an expectation is just, then you're lazy.
Right.
And I think that's not my dad's fault, but that's from being the son of a coach and a good coach and a hard coach in his own way, but a very fair coach. But to me, and always hearing about the guys that did a little better and worked down, I know it's Sunday, but the good ones are in there practicing today. And so then I would, and
you would feel that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And he did, and he meant it to motivate me, but for whatever my personality is, I realized no matter what I ever did, and even in the successes I had, I'm also cursed with a very, very good memory. So I think back at things and games, and even games that I was good in and had some of the greatest nights of my life in terms of athletic stuff, which is somewhat pointless in the whole meaning of life, but that was our measuring stick then. I pick them apart. And even in my job, as public as it was, and getting all of the constant affirmation, especially when social media started, and then it was all Twitter for the most part during my, as we start out on Twitter when it started during the strike or during the lockout, NBA lockout, and one of my camera operators was like, you got to get this thing called Twitter. Well, like people have found out in the years since, they kind of create a monster there. And then people see her on Twitter, and all of a sudden you got 30,000 followers, and after every game, and we've talked about this, I'd have 300 people talk about, it was a fun broadcast, it was great, it was a great game. Then you'd have the one who would rip you to shreds, and then I would think about that one the whole night. So I realized that was my own weakness. It was a lack of discipline, and it was me falling short of my own expectations because I had a partner, my broadcast partner, he didn't give a crap what anybody thought. And he was the most stress-free guy on the planet. And I always thought, I want to be more like that, even though I didn't really. I mean, not that we were just different, but I always thought of the freedom that would come with, a disciplined, healthy management of expectations that I did not possess.
Oh, yeah.
And then I always thought about, okay, when you think about, you mentioned a minute ago, eliminating expectations. So, and you've talked about it from a biblical point of view. So how then could you start using the word expectations? So there's a couple different words. Anticipation, and I use that one. And anticipation is very powerful. And I love thinking. I'm a big one for anticipating. But it also is the same thing, kind of, as expectations. If there's a weekend coming up 3 weeks from now where we're going to go do something, or fun is planned, and then all of a sudden, if they're out of whack and you're not necessarily healthy with it, you start looking for things that are going to sabotage it, and almost expecting those things to destroy the grand expectation. Yes. But then also another word in this that I don't know how, necessarily, although I have an idea, is expectation versus hope. Because hope is positive.
Yeah.
And hope in the Bible, we talk about this all the time. It's why I have the tattoo that I have, the one tattoo I have, talks about, it's an anchor. It talks about in Hebrews how an anchor being a hope for your soul. And so that's kind of why I have it, is that hope. So how does hope then compare to expectations? And the way that I think this is hope. Hope is healthy. Hope produces a life of faith, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so all these words are kind of interrelated. So if hope produces a life of faith, then having an expectation, here's the ugly one, it produces a life of entitlement. And I think that's the separator between those words, as similar as they sound, but I think they're a lot different.
Yeah.
And I wish I were somebody who had a better handle on hope and faith than expectation. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
There's a difference there.
There is a difference there. What does that look like for you as you recalibrate where you feel like
I fail at it all the time, man.
What is that? How do you play that out?
I don't know. Honestly, it's a battle, the expectation part of it, but I've learned, I think honestly, and when I look for reasons why my career took an abrupt turn, and again, it came, I've talked about this on past podcasts, and it's not like I'm the only one this has happened to. It's happened to a lot of people, and you have to reinvent, and I've had to do that. And it came at a time, an unlikely time, when everything was going so great, probably too easy, and then it happens. So I think for me, it helped a lot to be fully humbled, and I certainly was, and have been since. And then this whole process of reinvention, but it's changed the expectations. So my expectations used to be consistent, and that made it easier. Didn't make it healthier, but it made it easier. Now the expectation is way different, because I'm doing things that for the most part, some things I know how to do, but I've gone through some things that I've tried to. When I decided I wasn't going to live in hotel rooms anymore, which meant I wasn't going to be a TV broadcaster anymore, because for the most part, you just are going to do that, especially in the NBA world, because as I've said, I had a couple of opportunities after everything ended with the Blazers that I could have gone and done that. And I told my wife, it's not so much the move I mind, even though I didn't want to move. It was, I don't want to go back and live in a hotel room, because I couldn't live with the guilt of being away from the family anymore, because of the expectation I had on myself for being the kind of dad I wanted to be.
Wow.
So I'm not going to go do that anymore. So I guess to answer your question, in my life now, how I've dealt with it is it's been simplified for me, which is why I say I know it was a rescuing by God in something that didn't seem like it, but was likely poisonous for my soul.
Oh, wow. What I liked about what you just said, that what came to my mind was, I was looking at two verses as you were talking, and when I think of where I intend to go to, where maybe a lot of you listening can go to, when there's unmet expectations, I can get into a place of not just disappointment. It can move past disappointment into despair.
Yeah.
And the word despair, it means to not have hope. That's literally what the word despair means. I have no more hope. And it can really, that's the toxic piece that you're just
I've hung out there a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. We build a mansion there. We hang out. And
I know it's not.
I tell people
I
when they
put up a tent. I've got drywall and stuff.
It's funny you say. I tell people, like, hey, you can put a tent there, but you start putting brick and mortar, and now you got a house and lights are on, and you're moving in, and you're planning a long stay.
I have the truck backed up.
Yeah. Beep, beep, beep. But then I was, check this out. This verse is so cool.
Okay.
It says, the Lord delights in those who fear him. And the word fear there is not running, like he's got a big bat chasing you down. The Lord delights in those who fear him. And fear means awe, respect. But then this next part of that says, those who fear him, those who put their hope in his unfailing love. So I think that here's the thing. It says the Lord actually delights in us, but it says that those who put their hope in his unfailing love. You know what gives me hope is God's unfailing love. When I don't meet those expectations and despair sets in and I start getting hopeless, will there ever be some different outcome? Will there ever be something better? Will I ever be better? Will my marriage be better? Will my friendship be better? See, on the other side of unmet expectation, you said at the very beginning, are shattered dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And when a dream gets shattered, we think no more dreams could ever be reimagined or created again. And you think of someone who's been betrayed and hurt, and you go, oh my gosh, there was an expectation of fidelity and trust and loyalty, and bam, that expectation gets shattered. Now you kind of go, is there really hope for what this relationship? And you go, I don't know it anymore. And now despair comes in. But we do the same thing with ourselves. And I just love the fact that it says God's unfailing love is where we can find hope, meaning his unfailing love is like, I'm not giving up on you. I'm not giving up on you. I'm not giving up on you. And you see glimpses of this in the Bible too. Prodigal son, others, Peter. You know, look at Peter who betrayed Jesus at Jesus' most lonely moment, going to the cross and being humiliated and tortured and accused wrongly. And you would think Peter, the guy that was always going to be by his side, and Jesus, I got your back. Now he's like betraying him. Can you imagine that expectation that didn't get met? Because Peter set the expectation, because he told Peter beforehand, they're going to arrest me, you're going to deny me. And Peter sets the expectation. He says, I'm not going to deny you. I got your back. I'm your ultimate wingman. God, come on, Jesus, I'm with you. You know, didn't you see the whole sword thing? I chopped the dude's ear off. Man, I'm ready to go. Bring it on. And then the moment comes, he doesn't meet that expectation. He fails miserably.
Talk about guilt and shame.
Oh, and where does he go? He goes back to his old life. Goes back, well, I'm just going to go back to fishing, I guess. That's it for me. I blew it. I had my one chance. And then Jesus shows up, and Jesus looks at Peter. He finds him fishing, says, hey, come here. Yeah, you did. And he looks at him and says, I love you. You know, and he communicates to him the forgiveness, the love. And in that, Peter's experiencing Jesus' unfailing love. Yes, you screwed up. Yes, you didn't meet the expectation. Yes, things didn't go according to plans. You dropped the ball. You failed miserably. But I'm not done with you. So that's been a remedy for me, because in my self-pity, sabotaging, take myself out, I'm the worst this, I'm the horrible, because I just beat myself up. I need to learn, one, the truth is that God's like, Mike, yeah, you may have screwed up. That's fine. Yes, you did do those things, but I have an unfailing love for you. And so then what I have to do is receive it.
Yep.
Which is, in that moment, I can reject it and have this debate with God of, no, God, I'm not gonna receive it. But we have to actually receive it. You have to receive that. That's what gives us hope. The hope is that God has a plan for me, and no matter how many times I fail and miss the expectation, his expectation on himself, he won't fail. So that's the other thing. God expects, because his character is perfect. And there's another verse I was just going to read real quick that says that. It's in Romans. Says, for everything that was written, God's promises in the past, was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the scriptures and the promises we have, it would be the encouragement they provide so that we might have hope. And I think, like, when you think through what's the prescription for failure, shame, disappointment, the prescription to that is God's promises. And that's why you read in Timothy, it says, even though we are unfaithful, God is faithful.
Mm-hmm.
He is faithful even when we are not. So I don't know. I think that has been some solace for me when I'm go spin out really fast into disappointment. I'm a horrible husband, dad, father, leader, whatever.
I've been there.
Oh my gosh. Is just like, I got to come back to, okay, God's unfailing love. He's not giving up on me. My hope is in him finishing what he started in me. His mercies are new every morning. So there's a new start, a new freshness to his grace. There's a promise that he makes to himself to be faithful to us with his unconditional love, that he can't deny himself. Bible says he cannot deny himself of his promises. And so the promises of God, which is what we just read, that becomes a prescription. You know, it's like when you go to a doctor and you say, hey, I'm sick, I'm not feeling good, and they write you a prescription. When we have the sickness of disappointment, the sickness of shame, the sickness of failure, the sickness of all those things from unmet expectations, the prescription to that, I think, is promises of God. Take two and call them in the morning.
You know, there's I'm not a huge reader, but I have read a few books, and I always remember in the book The Cure. I don't know if you've read that book.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
The Cure is fantastic.
Amazing.
And the one line, I mean, I remember several things from The Cure, but the line that impacted me the most, I think I've probably mentioned this on the podcast before, was a line that basically said that what we imagine is us standing looking at this pile of crap that is our weakness in our life. And then on the other side of the pile of crap, we see Jesus standing there. And that we have to fix that pile before we get to him. And the reality is that he's standing with his arm on your shoulder, looking at it, saying, we're going to do this together. And I think part of me, and this is where you have talked about this in sermons before, and we've talked about this on the podcast, but this is where I realize there is truth in the fact that the way that you view your earthly father is very much connected to the way you view your heavenly Father, in that I kind of view Jesus in my life as kind of a coach figure, because my dad was a coach and I was around nothing but coaches as a kid. Loved every bit of it. The most loving, I mean, my dad was phenomenal, but this whole feeling that I never wanted to disappoint him, but at the same time, I probably could never really please him.
Yeah.
And I knew I could, but but there's still that idea as the coach. And so I view him as that. And I think that probably has skewed and messed up my expectation meter. And I think that's why it is the way it is. And I don't know. I think I've gotten better at it because I have been humbled and because I had nowhere else to go. But do you know how many guys in my life I know? And once in a while, I'll get a glimpse of this when I talk to them. But I think their solution to this, which I think is a battle that all men face, this battle we're talking about, they just don't think about it. They live in denial.
Oh, yeah.
And it's there, but they just don't stir that bucket because it's going to stink, and they leave it in the corner, and they don't want to go near it. And I'm telling you, and that, again, back to the our main goal with this podcast in the first place was I hope that you can address some of this stuff because it's not going away. And I know that you're struggling with the same thing. I mean, if you're anything like me and Mike, as he just talked about, it's there. And I don't have all the answers for it. I'm just telling you, I struggle with the same exact thing. And the expectation thing, as far as a topic goes for this one, and the fact that they can be so misguided, and the fact that they can be so destructive. And I think about, again, when I think, and I have a wonderful marriage with this greatest wife ever, but any problem we ever have, or any bump in the road, or discussion, or I don't even want to say fight because they really aren't ever that, but it's 90% of the time, I would say it's based around one of hers or mine, because she's got the same weakness as I do. It's an unmet expectation by the other.
Oh, totally.
And that is the cause of it. Now, I don't know the fix of it, but that is the cause of it.
Yeah, well, no doubt about it.
It's a skewed view of an expectation, and it probably isn't fair. I guarantee you the expectations I place on her, a date night, a vacation, as I already talked about, where I go into it with my own idea of how this is going to be and how this is going to look. And the fact that it doesn't ever, and the other part, that's the other part that sucks too. When you have a skewed view of that, or an unhealthy view of how of your expectations of it, you're never going to find joy in it because you've set unrealistic expectations that are never going to be met.
Exactly.
And I do that to myself. Clearly, I'll never even approach the expectations I have for myself. Yeah. But unwittingly, I'm dragging her into that same standard because it's so unhealthy.
Oh, well, and then we score keep
completely.
And then we go, well, you didn't meet those expectations, and you're not meeting this one. And then off we go to the races of who's going to win the battle, who's going to win the fight, who's going to be the one that proves the other person. And it's like, and we just spiral into that all the time. And it's interesting because, we talk about, like, there's this book out there and it's called 5 Love Languages. And it's good. It is good. And it tells you, like, hey, there's these different, this is the person who has words of affirmation, and that's how they love, and that's how they feel.
Is that kind of like a light Enneagram light?
It's more. It can be like that. It's the 5 love languages, like a really basic way of saying there's 5 main ways people give love, receive love. And so when you learn that about your spouse, and you go, oh my goodness, that the way that they love and give love and receive it, maybe they're a person who is through gifts. Another person is through words of affirmation. And another person is someone through physical touch. And someone's with quality time, right? That's the 5. And I remember sitting and using that forever.
There's only 5?
Well, I don't think there's 5. I think there's more than 5.
You're getting the Enneagram study. We went through a whole thing on that.
Then you got numbers coming out of all over the place. And then I always laugh too because we're sitting down doing.
It's pretty good, but I mean, man, after a while,
I think it's overwhelming. It
is very overwhelming.
That rabbit hole, man. Then you're like, I'm a 9 with a 30 wing and a 45
wing, and I got this,
and
then when anything happens, and I'm not sitting here crapping on the Enneagram thing. I think it was a really interesting study, but I have friends who love it so much that it becomes a crutch. Where, well, I did that because I'm a 4 with a 5 wing and I'm a 6 wing, and then it's like, well, I can't better that. That's not my fault. That's just my number.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I can be a jerk. Dude, no, it's just I'm a number whatever.
Yeah, sorry, like, I'm a 9.
Yeah.
Or I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, so I did this. I know.
Yeah, it is a cop out. But you know what? It's so funny with all those days. And like the love language, I used to use that a lot with married couples. It can be good. So it's a good tool. However, what I have noticed the tendency is that once you allow each other to learn about the way the other spouse,
yes,
well, now you're accountable. And what it does is it actually, I've seen this with couples, it creates new expectations.
Oh man.
Because if all of a sudden
that's all I need,
my spouse knows this is my love language, now the expectations through the roof.
We got a new rule book.
Oh my god.
I haven't even learned the first one.
It's better to be ignorant, like I'm dumb, I don't know what your love language is, but now that I know it, oh my gosh. And I've seen that. I have to warn couples, when you read this book, no, it could set you up with massive disappointment because you're going to look at your spouse and go, didn't you read the chapter? You know how
you were there. You know what my love language is.
Oh, I see it nonstop. And my wife and I were just talking about it the other day. Like her love language, mine were totally different. And she's quality time and acts of service. I'm physical touch, words of affirmation, and we're just both different on those things. And it's fine. We love how we're different, but man, it can be a weapon too. That book and knowledge can be a weapon because it's the expectation of knowledge. Like now that you know, I'm holding you accountable to that knowledge with an expectation that if you don't fulfill on the knowledge that you're now given, I'm going to be even more disappointed than when you were ignorant. And so those expectations are all mixed within in relationships every single day working through those dynamics.
So let me ask you then something you kind of asked me and I probably gave kind of a crappy answer, but when it comes to this, when it comes to the hope versus expectation, how we have the discipline to manage our expectation. And again, I'm going to say this from my viewpoint, personal expectation.
Yeah.
My weakness is not expecting. I don't get resentful really when others don't act like I would expect them to act.
Right.
Maybe a little bit, but not really. My expectation, what I do, and if something fails, I blame myself.
Oh, self-inflicted.
It doesn't matter what it is.
Nope.
If it could be something business-wise, and like even like I just talked about, when I lost my job with the Blazers, even though I knew there was nothing I did, I blame myself.
Oh, totally.
And I do to this day. And then I go, okay, nice. I get that self-talk going. Nice job, dickhead. You just put your family at risk.
Yep.
And you're not going to be a provider. What are you going to do now?
Exactly.
And I've got that, man, I've got on my shoulder, I've got that bad. And I'm not, I'm not saying it's not healthy, but it's not like it's awful, but I wish I could get it fixed. What do you do in terms of changing that, the bad expectation instinct, to maybe getting back to something that is healthier, like the cute word of hope that we talked about a minute ago versus expectation?
Yeah. I don't know. I think for me, it's honesty with myself that, okay, if there's an areas of personal growth, let's just say that a role, either personal growth or a role, I have a role. My role is a husband. My role is a father. My role is I'm a pastor. My role is I'm a leader. My role is I'm a friend. And interestingly enough, a lot of those roles are relationships. And so anytime you're dealing with relationships, you automatically enter into the zone of expectations. So I think what helps is clarity. Communication can help with expectations.
For sure.
It can. Doesn't always solve it, but communication can clear up a lot of unmet expectations. I can't tell how many times I've miscommunicated or been on the receiving side of miscommunication, and that was really the culprit, not the person or whatever. So communication is that. I think also is, for me, is where I depend on the source of power to meet the expectation. I know this right now. Paul talked about his weaknesses, right? Paul's like, hey, I'm going to just tell you, I'm a weak man. I got weaknesses. If there's anything, I'll brag about them. But he goes, but it's God's power in my weakness, is what he said. And his grace is sufficient for me. His power is made perfect in my weakness. I think for me, I have to be as honest about my weaknesses. Because when I set an expectation, that's kind of an end result. That's what an expectation is. It's an end result. It's our imagination says this is a scenario of how the all is supposed to play out. That's what an expectation is. I have to have enough humility to know, man, I'm a weak man, and I'm probably not going to meet that expectation, or I might, but so I have to realize, am I putting hope in my own perfectionism?
You're giving yourself grace.
That's misplaced hope. And I can hold myself accountable and go, come on, Mike, like you deserve, you can do better than that. I get that. There's a place for that. I do that all the time. Like, oh my gosh, I coach myself in my head.
Yep.
You're better than this. Come on, Mike, go apologize, or, stop whining, stop being on the pity party. I do that all the time because in our house, I can't stand victim mentality. And yet I do it to myself. Self-pity is victim mentality. And that's why I said earlier, either through deflation or deflection, both are victimized. And so I can play the victim to myself, or I can play the victim from somebody else, blame them. And so I talk to myself all the time, like, don't be a victim, don't be a victim, don't be a victim. Don't be on the pity pot. Don't do that. And there's a place for that. But I think for me, it's like I have to reset where I put my hope every day. God. So I do this. I do a prayer every day, and I do it throughout the day. And I start my day by saying, God, I need your power to help me overcome my weaknesses. Mm-hmm. Give me your power to overcome my weaknesses. And that is through his Spirit working in us. And so I have to, and then realize that only through dependence on him that I can meet those expectations. There are some low-hanging fruit expectations, sure, like you just grab those ones, but I need him to help me be faithful. I need him to help me be loyal. I need him to help me be the man that I'm expected to be and should be. And if there's areas in my life that are, because we all have them, that need transformation. Only he can do that. I don't believe that there's enough self-help on the planet that ultimately gets you to the place where you need to go.
And maybe do you need him to help you forgive yourself?
That's the 100% is then that's that act of everyday confession is not so much God forgiving me, because the Bible says that he already did forgive us. So, but the Bible says to confess your sins, to walk out confession. So to me, confession is making new declarations. Confession is not telling God something he already knows about me. Hey God, I did this. He's like, I know.
Yeah, like, hello, I saw you.
Yeah. So confession's not enlightening God on somehow some secret that I had. And he's like, oh my gosh, you did that? I didn't know. Thanks for sharing with me. So confession is more cleansing and purging the shame. When I start to feel that pity or that shame, or I'm a horrible this or that. Because the other thing you said earlier, taking every thought captive. Confession is alignment. That's why I say confession is a declaration. It's making a new declaration or a new agreement and breaking off other false agreements. Because right now, if I sit here and I go, there's an expectation, I'm supposed to be a certain husband, dad, father, leader, friend, and I don't meet it, I do something stupid. Not only will I be my worst enemy, Satan, who's the father of lies, the Bible says, he's also the accuser. What does an accuser do? Accuser puts somebody on trial. There's nothing more that Satan will want to do in our minds and our hearts than put us on the stand and bring all the evidence in front of us to accuse us of why we didn't measure up, why we failed, why we didn't meet that expectation. And so he does that through lies. And what are the lies? You're unforgiven. You're a nobody. You're a hopeless piece of garbage. You're a this, you're a that. And those are all lies, because that's why I said earlier, the truth is God's promises. That's why I said his promises are the prescription. What does he promise? He promises an unfailing love. He promises his mercies are new every morning. He promises that when we are honest about our weaknesses, that is a posture of humility, that God brings his power. Those are all truths. So every day confession is about purging the lies and making new agreements with the truth of who God is and the truth of who I am.
That's maturity. And there's oftentimes I thought, and if you're in your like early 20s, or even, I know we have some high school kids who listen on occasion, and you think automatically you're going to get better at this. I'm in my 50s and I'm still don't have it anywhere near figured out.
It's a lifelong challenge.
And I'd like to think that I have that discipline now. I know one thing I do have now is much better self-awareness. That sounds great. I'm not sure that can also, that isn't always a great thing for me. I have an overabundance, I think, of self-awareness, which when it comes to expectations, that can be kind of a poison pill when you put those two together. But my point in bringing that up was I think that it's a continuing battle at that. It takes discipline, and it takes discipline and your walk with the Lord to get to the point where you can have a healthy self-awareness, which then can help you kind of guide that expectation. And expectations and hope, they can be a very good thing, but they can also result in disappointment, frustration, and maybe most importantly, resentment. And that's how many times, and again, we just talked about this, but how many times do you think expectations result? They should result in, I don't know, a feeling of accomplishment or a feeling of peace, a feeling of self-esteem. But man, if you don't have those centered correctly, that can result in I don't know if it's possibly resentful of yourself, but if it's possible, then I'm sure I have been, but resentful of those around you if they didn't react the right way.
Totally. And if I set up an expectation and I want it so badly, I can turn into someone who's all about control.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing too. If I have an expectation I want met in my marriage, you can manipulate and try to control your spouse to that desired outcome.
Sure. That's a whole nother thing.
And that takes us down a whole other path.
Yeah.
But expectations in relationships can be the vehicle of control, manipulation. And again, that can go south fast in how that gets played out.
It's funny, these terms we throw around. I already talked about hope and how it relates to expectations and anticipation. And I know every year at Christmas time, we call it the Advent.
Yeah.
The time of expectation.
Oh, yeah.
The time of anticipation. And I want to think, and maybe I'll work toward that, to where the point where I don't think of expectation as necessarily a negative or something I'm going to whiff at this time, but something I'm going to look at with a healthy, balanced approach of good self-awareness and a perspective that will hopefully lend itself to a better grasp of reality and a healthier, more realistic expectation of not only others in my life, but most importantly of myself.
That's good.
Well, that's where we'll end it then. We appreciate you being a part of Vertical Pursuit, and we hope you feel like you're a part of it. That's part of this whole thing is sitting in on a conversation. And again, you can always reach out. I know Spotify app has ways you can comment and reply. And we love to hear from those who are listening to us. And we love to hear every week goes by. I think we hear from somebody in a different state or somewhere else who's listening. So we're humbled by that. And hopefully it helps you get these conversations started, not only with yourself, but with friends and with people in your life. And if you can start a cohort, as we talk about, where you just sit down and talk about some of this stuff and maybe help you get better known, because that's the most important thing: better known and accepted, not rejected, because that's is man's biggest fear.
That's it.
So we will see you next time on Vertical Pursuit. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast, comment, or message us, and check out our website at verticalpursuit.org. Download the VP app and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.